Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a professional match of StarCraft. Okay, that was a very quick pause. Man, they spoiled my introduction. Welcome back to another StarCraft 2 match. It's time for a best of 3 series where in game number 1 we find ourselves on ley lines, spawning right here in the top right hand corner. Continuing the game after a quick little pause, we have none other than the highest ranked player on the planet, but also the highest ranked StarCraft 2 player of all time. We're looking at none other than Serral's main hatchery. His opponent, down in the bottom left, a man who's been practicing a lot of other RTS games, but upon coming back to StarCraft, it's clear that he's got a fresh look on things. He's been mixing up his strategies a ton, and it's been a lot of fun to especially watch Zerg versus Protoss and Zerg versus Terran so far. Let's see what he does in ZVZ against the GOAT. We're looking at none other than Elazer's main hatchery. For now, nothing all too weird, nothing all too spicy. Now, this particular series was played during Home Story Cup. I didn't actually see the games yet. Sadly for me, I do know the results. So, you know, that's a little bit unfortunate for me, but I won't be spoiling it for you. As far as the games go, though, I have absolutely no clue what ended up going down. I just heard that a lot of people were talking about this particular Zerg versus Zerg, and considering... What? Okay. Considering it's a mirror matchup, that usually doesn't happen. This is a build. It's hatchery into spawning pool into a gas. This is a very strange way to start off a ZVZ, especially with a macro hatchery right over here in the wall off. This is going to get scouted immediately by Serral. And if I was Serral, I'm not exactly sure what Serral's going to make of this, but if I was Serral, I would immediately assume Zergling Flood. The only reason to have a hatchery out front like this is if you want to generate additional larvae, and therefore, obviously, Zerglings are going to be an incredible weapon of choice. Then again, obviously, Elazer knows that Serral knows that is a very likely situation, so it really doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Now, of course, Serral, an absolute monster in ZVZ. There's this rumor, I guess, in the StarCraft world that Serral's Zerg versus Zerg is quote-unquote weak. And maybe if you look at the statistics, it's slightly worse than his Zerg versus Protoss and his Zerg versus Terran, but that's just because his ZVT and his ZVP are absolutely monstrous. He did lose a couple of important series over the years, especially last year against Shin, but then also against Solar in the biggest tournaments. So I guess you can kind of say that his Zerg versus Zerg is... yeah, weak, quote-unquote weak only. It just doesn't really seem entirely fair to me. ZVZ is still a matchup where Serral is an absolute monster and certainly the favorite going into a game like this. So it's gonna be fun to see what Elazer decides to do. For now, he's really not using that macro hatchery for anything else other than, well, walling. Yeah, we get some extra, I guess, larva generation. There's an extra queen out as well to continue injecting this. Serral is forced to play a little bit more cautiously, and you can see that reflected in the worker count right now. He did take a third hatch, so that's nice. At the very least, he will have another mineral line to harvest from, but he needs to make sure that he does not fall behind economically. This is one of the big problems in ZVZ. When you believe you're playing against a 2-base player, and you're a little bit afraid that that 2-base player is going to go for like a Nidus all-in, or like a Mutalisk rush, or a Zergling Flood, or whatever, sometimes you will find yourself going up against a 2-base player that's just chilling and macroing up, and just delaying their third. And if you don't respect it, you will actually be horribly behind economically. Even if you have an extra base, you need to make sure you get the drones for that base quickly enough too. And for the majority of this game so far, yep, this is what I'm trying to say. Elazer has been out-droning his opponent a ton. Now, this is a quick lair. This is quick double gas in the natural too. Zerglings are coming right now after fully saturating, but yes, this can only ever lead towards a Spire. And, oh, Serral! You... Sorry. This is where the fanboying begins. This little play over here is so perfect. This Zergling somehow scouted the Spire within about a second of being... This is something only Serral does, man. How did he even get this Ling in? He knows what the opponent is likely going for. This is actually a prime example of a pro gamer figuring out what the opponent is going for, even though they don't really know exactly what's building. Look at this. He realizes this is when the Queen Inject is likely going to happen, and he knows this is the timing of the Spire. That little scout over here is the highest level move so far in this game by a mile. just being able to deduce every single situation, despite the opponent going for a very weird setup here, and figuring out the exact precise timing is nuts. Very hard. Now, he may know all the info. Does he have the units? One of the queens getting surrounded. Banelings in the natural expansion are going to be a necessity. A couple of drones are being targeted here, but so far the losses are left to a minimum. Yeah, Serral's going to be alright. What about the follow-up, though? The Mutas are, of course, on the horizon. Serral's lair is significantly later here than Elazer's. And that is something that you do have to respect. I'm assuming this is going to be straight Hydras. Spore Crawlers are quite strong as well, of course. You can stay alive with Queens, but Queens are a little bit more expensive now. Third hatch, by the way, in the meantime, coming up. Yeah, instant gases here, too. Ooh, okay. We're gonna go extra Queen production, and instead of a Hydra, then, we're going Infestation Pit. So Serral thinking about going maybe into a Hive and some Vipers, and maybe survive the time in between with a little bit of, like, I don't know, like an Infestor or two? Certainly a play. But it means that he's forced to play very defensively for a long time. And this is one of the things about ZVZ. I pretty much always favor the aggressor. In practically any game of Zerg versus Zerg, I think being the aggressor is so much easier. Because the margin for error is tiny. Like, yes, in theory, Serral can protect against everything, and he can defend his mineral lines and all that, but it's so easy to just look away for half a second and have a couple Banelings roll into your base. Basically, this is Serral saying, I'm gonna play defensively for, like, the next 10 minutes, and it'll be up to you to try and stop me from doing that. So far, so good, but how in the world are you ever going to take another base? Elazer has full map control for now. Serral does go into that infestation pit. No spending of anything just yet. I guess it's just gonna be... Yeah, it's Burrow and I guess Infestors. Yep, we're going Infestors. The idea being we're gonna try and chain fungal the Mutalisks. At which point, well, you can maybe get the Queens to cross the distance or get the Hydralisk in here too. Bit of an overextension by Elazer. Who, yeah, is gonna lose an Overlord. Not the end of the world though. He's looking for angles here, and this is some solid control on the Mutas. But for now, he's not really finding anything. Lovely control right there, actually, shoveling the weakened units to the back. One Muta going down so far. One Queen going down so far. This is actually quite a respectful engage. Now he sees the Infestor, though. Woo! Lucky for him that Infestor was in the wrong place. Spore Crawler, by the way, incredibly powerful. Not to be underestimated. They absolutely tear Mutalisk apart. +1 flyer attacks is finishing up in just a second. Elazer is just denying all of the scouting here for Serral, and Serral is completely in the dark. Look at the minimap right now. He can't see anything. He doesn't know. He needs to be pre-split against everything. One big problem you run into as a defensive player, other than making mistakes that are very easy to make, is also that you don't know what the follow-up from the opponent is going to be. In this case, it's looking like Mass Muta. Serral has probably clicked on one of the Mutas and realized that +1 flyer attacks has been researched, but this could be a quick transition towards Lurkers. This could be a quick transition towards Hive. Could even go into Ultralisks. In this particular instance, it's Mass Mutas, but you can't really treat every situation the same way. So Serral is trying to go for the... Ooh, trying to go for the, like, one-size-fits... Oh my god, okay. The one-size-fits... Oh my god. You got a big fungal, but not enough follow-up there to actually finish all of it. That could have been disastrous for Elazer. Anyways, he decides to go for a Hive of his own and now into a Lurker then. Double upgrades are gonna be a necessity. But without, like, 8 gas geysers... Ooh, cheeky little burrow. Without 8 gas, it's actually quite difficult for Serral to be continuing his macro game here. Like, he can barely avoid, or afford rather, the Seismic Spines upgrade. He's going loads of Spore Crawlers, and that also is obviously directly, yeah, gonna cause some economical damage to him. I think actually what he should be aiming for here is a fungal growth with a parasitic bomb. It's like 2 League of Legends characters, or like 2 Dota heroes, right? Like, doing their ultis all at the same time. If you can fungal, and then parasitic bomb the Mutas, they pop out of the sky. It's the type of wombo combo that can work wonders. It's the type of stuff that I dream of in this matchup, but also the type of stuff that is extremely hard to pull off. Fungal gets a whole bunch of them, man. He's gonna chain. No, he's gonna just scare them away for now. There has been a little bit of a counterattack. Couple of the units here in the top left. Couple of the roaches in the bottom right too. Looks like the mutas are gonna continue going to town though, and they have actually been sniping a lot of the troops down. Serral making some overextensions here, not splitting his units in time. There's been enough damage. Keep in mind that with the new multiplayer balance patch, Spore Crawlers deal more damage, but they also have 100 less HP. Overlords over here, by the way, covering that one Spore Crawler in the back. Even though this is a lot of kills right here done by the Muta player, I don't like this engagement overall. I think he didn't see that Spore Crawler, maybe another Spore Crawler that was covered by the Overlords. 28 Mutas for 6 Queens and a bunch of... Like, that is a trade that Serral will make any day of the week in this particular scenario. Right now, Serral has a major tech advantage. Now, the only thing he's really lacking is gas. Apparently, he's got his eyes set right over here on the rich Vespian gas geyser, which is awesome if you can get there. It's just that this base is quite vulnerable. Couple of lurkers here in the front, new queens coming up. There is enough energy right now on this Viper as well. Parasitic bombs are super dangerous. Parasitic bomb deals 120 area of effect damage. Mutalisks have 120 life. That is something worth noting. They will regen some HP during the parasitic bomb, so you can't actually kill all of them with one hit, but fungal growth into Parabomb is GG. Serral going now into the Tunneling Claws research as well, and so far, man, it looks like he's got the defensive play down to a T. Honestly, he's playing very confidently. Most players that are forced in this position don't play like this. Let's see if it's actually going to work out for him, though, in the long run. Here come the Mutas once more. Oh, Viper gets sniped. Another Viper gets sniped. That was the one with full energy. We do have some Roach counterattacks. Fungal. Oof, could have gone over a little crevice. This is some dangerous moves by Elazer, though. This is starting to feel like a bit too ambitious of a play. We're now all the way up to 38 Mutalisks killed. More of them are coming up. Elazer, though, gobbling up all of his side of the map. Look at the minimap right now. He's got so many of his bases. He's got a concave of bases. Serral doesn't have the eco advantage. He doesn't even have that many workers. But in a straight-up engagement between these two armies, when both of them are maxed out and Serral has got all of his upgrades done, he's gonna destroy this army in blue. Obviously, though, one of the advantages of Mutaling-based armies is that you don't actually have to fight straight up. If you notice here that Serral decides to go for a move out, you can do a full counterattack and still be home in time for defense too. Those units are quick. Serral, though, buying so much time here. That's really his only limiting resource. Yeah, this is starting to look worse and worse right now for Elazer. I liked what he was doing earlier on in this game. And I think overall, it went about as well as it could have. It's just that this is starting to fizzle out. Like, Mutas are great against mid-game Zerg armies, but against, like, late-game Zerg armies, Splitty, good Splitty. Against late-game Zerg armies, it just doesn't really seem to cut it. These roaches are dealing quite a bit of damage too, by the way. Serral has killed more drones than Elazer has. Let that sink in for a little bit. These Mutas have been harassing the entire game long. We have a secondary Spire coming up? So, okay, Hive on the production tab too. What's the play? Greater Spire, I guess? Greater Spire. Oh, these are misrallied. He used 2 control groups of Mutas there for a little bit and then combined them together, not realizing that that group from the bottom right-hand corner would fly across the entire Zerg base in red. Parabomb? Oh, big parabombs. Big parabombs. Very dangerous. Okay, still though, some good magic boxing here by Elazer, who prevents the majority of the damage on these units, but it's still not great. There's the Greater Spire, so he did go for a Hive to go into Greater Spire and I guess +3 attacks. Now there's a reason we don't really see Greater Spire units very much. First off, Brute Lords, in my opinion, it's probably the worst Zerg unit in the game. I would say Brute Lords are actually some of the absolute worst units in all of StarCraft. I can't... Dude, one thing I still can't believe about Mutas is that with the new multiplayer balance patch, when they first announced it, they had a bug fix for the unit, and they decided to revert the bug fix, because apparently it made the unit too good. Which is... Anyways. We don't really see them very much. Fungal? Parabomb? Okay. We don't really see them very much, mostly because Brute Lords can be abducted. And there's already Vipers out. Hydra Lurker Viper kills everything in this matchup. So as long as Serral adds on additional Vipers, he gets some energy going. He abducts the Brutes one at a time. The Lurkers can kill all of the little Brutelings, and the Hydras can destroy everything else. This is one of those scenarios too where I guess the Hydra's lunge ability is also going to be quite nice. I know Serral has been enjoying that ability quite a bit. Fungal, Parabomb. Woo! Okay, quick reaction speed right there by Elazer. Making the best of a very bad situation. Brute Lords are coming. And despite the fact that Serral doesn't know, or at the very least I don't think he knows, I also don't believe he's gonna care much. He's already adding on additional Vipers, which is exactly what he needs. Started off with the minimum number of Vipers. Now we're gonna go into a couple more. I think you probably want like, I don't know, you can get up to like a dozen Vipers if you want to here. Maybe that's a bit much. Obviously, gas is still a limiting resource, but he can afford quite a bit. And there it is. Nanomuscular swell, baby. Just like my nickname in college. It's that lunge ability for the Ultralisk. Gonna allow them to dash around the battlefield a little bit more confidently. Now, this will come down to one big engagement. Serral has been forced to play that turtle style ever since like minute 3. But he's decided that, well, he's gonna do that until he's content with his army. And that moment may be right about right now. Because of the way that this map works, the players have also accidentally been expanding close to one another. This is a cute little run by Elazer. I quite like that. It's gonna draw some of that attention away. Now the Brute Lords are spotted. We don't frequently see Vipers abducting Brutes, but yoink! Certainly can be done. Still though, you need to be respecting this army. Yeah, those Brutes are catching Serral off guard. He doesn't quite have enough units for it, and he decides to back off. Nicely done right here by Elazer. Big fungal growth though. Don't go sleeping on the job. Parabomb instantly remaking. Oh yeah, Spore Crawlers are gonna mess you up too. We don't very frequently see Brute Lords killing Spore Crawlers, but you can tell here that the Spore Crawlers certainly win that fight. And even though I like the efforts here from Elazer, he's doing a great job outplaying the opponent if the opponent wasn't, you know, Serral. I think this is one of those situations where Elazer came up with something that would work wonders against practically everybody under the sun, but I've not really seen Serral make a mistake in this game. Like, I guess he moved out. Like, he moved out across the map just now before he knew Brute Lords were there, but this has been a near flawless engagement here for Serral so far. This whole game has been incredibly strong. He's also counterattacking in the meantime in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. There's that nanomuscular swell coming in too. He hasn't got this game in the bag yet, but you can tell that Elazer started to fizzle out. Elazer just did not have a proper transition after the Mutas. Essentially, the whole game plan was to win in the mid-game. And since he didn't get the job done, he had to make some decisions. But it's Serral who dominates game number 1. Next up, we find ourselves on Amygdala. Brilliant game by Serral. Yeah, it's just one of those scenarios where you can practice that style over and over and over again, and you win against everybody until you go up against the highest ranked player with that particular race. And that's got to be a rough loss right there for Elazer, because he didn't even play poorly. Like, he played really well. He was good with his control, his macro looked on point, his economy was solid. He was ultimately playing a mid-game army in the late game. Yeah, I get that Brute Lords are technically late game units, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Brute Lord, man. I don't remember the last time I've seen a Brute Lord game where it seemed like it was a good choice. I think I would have preferred, like, double upgrades from Elazer and just into, like, Mass Ultra or something along those lines. Brute Lords, I get that they're already benefiting from those upgrades, but honestly, sometimes I see Brute Lords attacking and I can't even tell if they're dealing damage or they're healing the opponent's units. Okay, maybe that goes a bit far, but I have not been a fan of the Brute Lord as of late. Anyways. One day there will be a game. One day there will be a game where the Brute Lords dominate the battlefield. I mean, they're pretty strong in straight-up fights, but one of my major issues with the Brute Lords is that usually when you attack with them, it's a one-way trip. Right? Like, you can rarely go back home. And since there are only... This is actually one of the things about all the Tier 3 Zerg units. They're all anti-ground only. So, if you can choose to go either Ultras, Lurkers, or Brute Lords to counter your opponent's ground army, I think the Brute Lord is the worst of the three. Obviously, it's got its place, especially against, like, Archon Immortal-based armies, for example, in Zerg versus Protoss. It can be quite good, and there are some scenarios where it really can be a nice unit. It's pretty cost-efficient, I guess, compared to, like, Lurkers, and especially Ultralisks, but yeah. Yeah. There's a reason we don't really see it in late-game ZVZ very much. Anyways, Amygdala. It's the map with the tentacle rocks, and in the early game, you only have 2 attack lanes. So either you attack like this, or you take the same path all the way up north. So as long as you have an Overlord scouting both locations, any attack can be spotted from a mile away. And once more, Elazer is cutting corners. This has been a hatch gas pool. Hatch gas pool right here by the player in blue. And he's playing into Serral's image here. Serral is known as a macro player. Serral's going for the conventional, good old Zergling speed first. Whereas Elazer has decided to skip Link speed and go straight into a lair. This is a very quick lair. Roach Warren coming up. Serral has seen it now. He's also seen the lack of a third. And since he's got his own third about halfway done at this point, it's once more gonna be a situation where Serral is gonna be the defender. Yep, 2 base play here from Elazer. I actually think this is a really good build. If you are a Zerg player on the StarCraft 2 ladder, you kind of struggle in this matchup. Everybody that I always see playing ZVZ will play this Serral-esque style, because it is, quote-unquote, the best, right? Like, it is the best if you are a machine. If you can control and defend as well as Serral, the way that he's playing this matchup is the correct choice. However, as a fellow human, I know that it's hard to be... Okay, I think I'm human anyways. Pretty sure I'm human. It is hard to play this matchup well, so I think a 2-base play is actually an excellent alternative. So this is Elazer rushing out the +1 together with the Roach speed. And this is something that has been spotted right now by Serral. But once more, because of the timing of the lair, he's got a Spire about halfway done. And this is super tough, man. How do you play this right now as Serral? Serral doesn't know. He has no idea. He hasn't seen the lair. He doesn't know about the timing of it. He probably has figured out now that the opponent has skipped out on the Link speed upgrade, but you can't really commit too much into unit production here. So he needs to have something against an influx of Mutas. It's not going to be as many as in the previous game, I don't think. Although maybe. But there's a good chance that these Mutas can catch Serral off guard. So we're going to have to keep an eye out on a little bit of... I wonder if he should have got missile upgrading. Or yeah, if he should have melee instead. But we'll have to see what Serral's reaction speed against 7 Mutalisks is going to be. Lair's just about to finish up. Look at Serral patrolling roaches in the main base to deal with a potential Nidus network. He doesn't know. He doesn't have info. He's now going to see a Zergling move out. Extra Queens immediately fire up. This is the first sign that Serral realizes something is a little bit suspicious. Serral very far behind, of course, as far as those upgrades go, because he's been focusing on economy, and he does have a slight advantage in that department. But where's the Mutas? The Mutas are going to go after the Overlords. Okay. Serral immediately fires up a bunch of Spore Crawlers. Fair enough. I actually wonder if Elazer could have gone across the map with these Mutas. He's giving his opponent the respect that the defense would be good. But in my mind, I think he could have been able to... Yeah, he would have been able to kill some workers on the other side of the map and then still come back home for the Overlords too. I think he realizes, though, where the Overlords are hiding, so he's hoping he can snipe all of them. And once more, take out that full map vision of Serral. Couple of Queens are at the front. Roach is in the back too. That's actually important, because otherwise the Zerglings would have gotten the wraparound. And this is, I guess, the scariest part of the game right now done for Serral. I'm pretty sure this is where Serral's like, okay. Like, this could have been disastrous. Yeah, we lost some Overlords. Certainly not like it's easy from here on out, but the scary part is mostly done. Muta's coming in right now. Nice control, at least attempted here by Elazer, but not quite getting the job done. And now Serral is finding himself once more in that cruising zone, dude. Yeah, couple of roadworks ahead, but Serral's road tripping right now. Let's get the Red Hot Chili Peppers on. And he's just cruising along. Cruise control in the left lane. He's just having a good time. The sun's out. He's got his sunglasses on. He gets to play the type of game that he plays best. And it'll be Roaches apparently now into once more Infestors. I did see a Ultralisk then. Maybe he's actually changing it up a bit. Are we going to go for... I thought for a second the Queens were going to go out on a little adventure. That would be... that would be kind of dirty. Okay. I'm hoping Elazer is going to do a different follow-up. He hasn't fired up the +2 yet, but I think he's going to. Yeah. So it's basically the same game as what he did in game number 1, except I'm liking this situation for Serral even more than in game number 1. And this is still, like, don't get me wrong, this is still an extremely tight game. One mistake and it's GG. Elazer's trying to bait out Fungals right now, by the way, but Serral's not taking the bait. He doesn't want to waste any energy. So one really easy alternative here for Elazer is to make like 20 Mutas and then transition to Hydras into Lurkers, for example. Ultimately, though, when you play that, you are forced to play a late game against Serral with a similar unit composition. Okay, decides to magic box this. Does get a couple of the Infestors. Nicely done right here by Elazer. The Queen sleeping on the job for just a little bit. Fungal growth, though, making it difficult for them to retreat. Serral will once more need to secure a 4th base. And that's exactly what he does right over here at the front. Hydra numbers are climbing up. We have 6 Spore Crawlers, which actually feels kind of conservative. Oh, you can't fight these Hydras, man. No. Yeah, this is a masterclass. A masterclass on how to play Zerg versus Zerg. If you've ever played ZVZ, you know how flimsy it is. Like, I have tried playing this style from Serral so many freaking times. You make one little slip up, you don't pay attention, there's like 4 Banelings that just walk into your mineral line and you just didn't see them. There's so many little things that can go horribly wrong. Because you're still a punching bag, right? Like, that's still what's going on here. Serral's basically playing defense for the first 7 rounds. Woo! Alright, well, he came out swinging that time. It's a lot of dead Mutalisk so far in this game. Only 3 drones, by the way, have died. Only 3. That's actually nuts. This is a much faster hive from Elazer, so we'll have to see what he does with it this time around, but I don't see any armor upgrades other than this one. I don't really see a second Spire. There's no Lurker potential for him, so I am assuming we're once more gonna go into Brutes. Because he's not starting up another upgrade in the Spire either, so I think this will once again be Brother Lords. And even though I do like the idea of the Brother Lords, I've already explained, right, why overall it just does not seem to play in the late game. Serral's already got Vipers coming up. This time around, it is much quicker. And maybe, okay, yeah, the reason he's going... Oh, alright. The reason he's going into a secondary Evo chamber here together with an Ultra Cavern is because he wants to rush into the Ultras here. That's why we have the +1 armor on the production tab. Serral scouts it. Look at the freaking timing of these things, man. So diligent. And he sees it. He sees it. What do you do? What do you do against Serral sometimes? When he is in form... I've got nerd chills all over my body, man. That's so... It's so crisp. Serral, I guess, has been humbled a little bit by Clem in the Zerg versus Terran matchup. And I guess in Zerg versus Protoss, things are a little bit harder now with the new multiplayer balance patch, and he has looked a little bit more mortal. But, I mean, this is as even as a game is ever going to be, right? A mirror matchup, like this little corner over here. Look at these. In this matchup, there's just not really any advantages, right? You just get to, yeah, win by playing better. Now, this is a lovely attack here by Elazer, though. Elazer realizes that he's been spotted. Parabombs, parabombs. We gotta split against those real quick. He decides to fight it out by doing a bit of a, a bit of a split on the units, mitigating most of the splash damage. There's a lot of damage being done on the side of Serral, who now counterattacked too and managed to get a good bit of damage done against one of the opponent's bases. There's already another expansion, though, finishing up in the bottom right-hand corner. Elazer did pull the drones away, and here come the Big Daddy Ultras. They're once again back to their original size. It's one of the things they snuck in the new multiplayer balance patch. Can I rant about that too? I feel like I've been ranting a little bit too much in this cast already, but... So you know how Ultras now push units around and they're not as derpy anymore? And to compensate for that, they got a speed nerf. So they're not really quite as quick anymore as they once used to be. One thing that they did at the very end of the balance patch process, when they made the mothership slightly bigger, it's like they decided, oh, you know what? We can also make the Ultralisk bigger again. This is a massive nerf. Like, the Ultra is so much worse when it's bigger. Anyways, haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it, but the fact that the Ultra is bigger is a significant adjustment to the unit. Burrow over here coming in clutch, but the Roaches are still going to die. Ultras are still certainly better than they were like 3 years ago, but... Can't believe that we played the entire PTR with the small Ultras, and everybody's like, yeah, they're pretty good, I guess, but not amazing. And then right as the patch goes live, they're like, oh, by the way, we brought it back to its original size. So it gets stuck on everything again. All right, rant disabled. My question is, when is Serral going to move out with his, well, entire army? Since he's now not playing against Brute Lords, but playing against Ultras instead, he's not adding on too many Vipers, but instead he's going into the good old Lurker. And this is still the superior unit comp. Hydra Lurker Viper still beats everything. In this instance, I mean, Elazer is hoping he can get an engagement. He gets a nice fight and maybe surround all of the units. It is nice, though, to see the Ultra back at its original size. It does look a lot more imposing. It's just that it's also much worse. Like, the size increase. Yeah, it really does make it a much harder unit to get into the front. Look at this guy. Not doing anything. Anyways, it's nice to see them back to their original size. It does look cool. It's the same for the Mama ship. I do think it looks better. Like, visually, it is more impressive, but... There's no denying that gameplay-wise, it is a damage reduction. Anyways. A lot of drones going down. How many Mutas are there still? Only 11. He's trying to see if he can box in these Ultras. Other ones are coming in. Okay, Mutas once more in a little bit of trouble. Hydra's forced to come back around. The Ultras can't really go here, though, can they? They're just gonna get torn apart. Elazer decides to commit regardless. Serral in an extremely decisive set of games. When there is no balance to discuss, when the playing field is as even as it's gonna be, he absolutely destroys Elazer in this best of 3 series.